Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
So many of you over the last 3 months have been asking me questions through email about not just becoming a stronger grounded man, but also about how I built my online freedom business. You see, I used to be broke, sleeping on my brother's couch with only $15 to my name, to now having a top-ranked men's podcast on iTunes. I'm a 3-time Amazon best-selling author. I sell out events where men come from around the world to attend my powerful trainings, and I'm working with amazing clients one-on-one. I share exactly what I would do if I was going to start over in this free training on becoming an influencer at kfminfluence.com. Again, that's kfminfluence.com. This will get you in the game, save you thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours of trying to figure all of this out on your own. This is the stuff people charge for, but I'm giving it to you for free at kfminfluence.com. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with David Osborn. He has built one of the top real estate brokerages in the world. He's founded over 50 companies, and he's also the author of the upcoming book, Wealth Can't Wait. Avoid the 7 wealth traps, implement the 7 business pillars, and complete a life audit today. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here with you, Andrew.
All right. I'm excited to have you here and really dive into wealth and wealth creation. And so let's start off with a favorite success quote or some sort of saying that you've lived by that's helped you on your journey.
Yeah, my favorite's always been Jim Rohn, and I still is to this day. And I used to listen to his stuff. And, I know he's a bit of an older generation, but I would listen to his stuff in the car and I would just repeat it. Like I was like, that is gold. And one of his was, if you go to work on your goals will go to work on you. If you go to work on your plan will go to work on you. Whatever good things we build end up building us. And Jim died a few years ago, but I had that quote in my journal when I met him, the only time I met him, and I got him to sign it. So I have that autographed in an old journal, not in the one I'm currently using, and that's something I'm proud of to this day, because truly life is about choosing a destiny, choosing goals, and knowing that every day as you get after those goals, you're going to mold yourself. You're literally choosing the path of self-creation, but it all begins with your choices and your goals.
Do you think that can actually also work against us if if you're saying good things, but what if we're saying bad things to ourselves? So you're saying, hey, good things build us, basically. If we say good things and we work on our plans will work for us. What if we're saying negative things like, oh man, I'm just overwhelmed, and we're starting to have like the negative thought patterns? Do you think that also builds us too, builds us in a bad way?
Yeah, every one of us sort of creates ourselves, and I don't know where I got it, and it said no negative self-talk. So it said negative self-talk with like a circle and a red slash through it. Yeah. And I stuck it on another journal I had for a number of years. And you're absolutely right that every one of us talks negatively to ourselves every day. I mean, it's not like, oh, one guy, he's figured it out, Tony Robbins, he's always positive all the time.
Right.
But it's like that story of the hungry wolf, one's hate, one's love, which one wins? The one you feed the most. And it's true of the voices in our head. One talks positive about you and one kind of tears you down a little bit. And the one that wins is the one that you feed the most. Yeah. And from my perspective, when I hear that negative voice, I always use the analogy of the movie Beautiful Mind. You remember that movie, Beautiful Mind, with Russell Crowe? And he's basically crazy. And then towards the end of the movie, the way he manages his craziness is not by, he can't shut the voices out, but he just ignores them. So you see that guy that he thought was a secret agent, and you see the little girl, and you see these people that were imaginary creations in his mind. They're always there, but he just walks right by him and they go, and they try to talk to him and he blows on by. And I think that's what you have to do to your negative talk. It's never going to go away. You just got to, as often as you can and as much as you can, blow on by it. And when it's particularly bad for me, Andrew, when I'm like having a bad month or I'm up at night and I got insomnia and the ceiling fan is spinning and I can't shut off the negative talk, I'll flick on like ESPN or something, or something I can listen to on a book on tape and just drown it out with a positive or either a mindless distraction or something positive, just because I know there is no value in listening to those voices. They always there and they just never shut up and they babble negatively to you. And they're part of my life and I accept them, but I'm not going to listen to them.
Yeah, it's very powerful. What I'm always amazed by. So look, here you are, David, you found over 50 companies. I want to kind of dive into that and top real estate brokerages in the world. I mean, we got to kind of learn more about that. But a guy like you said that you got something signed by Jim Rohn, which tells me that you've been doing personal development for a long time. Is that
Absolutely.
Right? And
yeah, I was a terrible student. I got thrown out of a bunch of high schools and I was a D college student. I barely got through. And then I got into the real world and the real life and I started in sales and I learned that directly, effectively what you know. Like I used to have to knock on skyscraper doors and blow by the do not solicit sign and go straight up to the receptionist and be like, hey, how you doing? And I learned that directly what I knew, like the words I knew, the scripts I knew, the energy I brought into that conversation immediately affected my results. If high school had been like this, I'd have been a straight A student, man. If college had been like this, like in college, they're like, hey, in high school, they're going to teach you calculus so that in 20 years or 10 years, you might be an engineer and build bridges. I'm like, I don't even understand what you're talking about. But when I learned just about the power of having a positive attitude and your attitude determines your altitude and all these different things, and then I would go into a meeting and the day before I tried and I had a bad attitude and no one had bought from me and I'd go in with a massively positive attitude and I get like 3 sales. I'd be like, well, check that out. I immediately learned something. I applied it. And now, boom, I'm getting better results. So then I became addicted to learning, and most of it through self-development. And yeah, I've been an avid reader and listener to podcasts and reader of books and going to seminars and the whole bit. And still to this day, I would target spending $100,000 a year on reading materials and learning materials and going to seminars. I spent $50,000 just to go hang out with Richard Branson on his island because I knew I'd get value from it. And guess what I did? I got amazing value to hang out with Sir Richard, learn from him, be around the patron saint of entrepreneurs. And it was incredible. And it was worth every penny. Now, I didn't do it every year. I don't need to go back every year. But I think self-help is what it's all about, man. That's what America creates such opportunity for. There are some places in the world where you can't self-help yourself up. It's very difficult if you're in, like Mozambique, say, or Zimbabwe to self-help yourself up to a multimillionaire status. But in America, exactly how you think and what you know will determine where you are in life.
So this stuff works. I think for people who are new to perhaps this podcast or even personal development in general, they think it's like woo-woo or this, I'm going to wish my way. But what do you think is the difference between someone like yourself who was going to seminars, reading books for a very long time, and the people maybe that you were sitting next to where they're in the same position that they were in maybe 5 or 10 years ago, but you were in that same room? What were you doing differently that perhaps some of these others weren't doing?
Well, you have to really want the actual outcome. I think it's choosing an outcome. Like some people live in the illusion of coolness, right? I know some guys that are amazingly cool and probably a lot more fun than me. And they do well, but they're really stuck in looking good and feeling good and having the best moments. But I actually wanted tangible success. My desire, my choice was for, multimillionaire status, for financial freedom. I wanted to not have to answer to anybody if I didn't want to. And so that desire molded my decisions. My decisions were not molded on just saying, hey, I went to Tony Robbins, look how good I look. It was okay, I've been to Tony Robbins, I'm working on my attitude. Now what else do I need other than a good attitude? Jim Rohn always says, or maybe it was Norman Vincent Peale, but he says, if you have a great attitude and no map or destination, you're just a happy lost guy. And so then I thought, okay, I got to go to work on my roadmap. What's my roadmap look like? And to have a really good destination, I chose role models, like who's out there and I knew a lot of guys in real estate and a lot of them were financially free. And I thought, well, real estate looks like a place where people can get financially free. I'm pretty sure I couldn't invent the next iPhone. So I can learn a lot from Steve Jobs, but I'm not going to learn how to build the next iPhone. But I could certainly figure out how to buy a house 20% below market and then rent it out and have a positive cash flow and rinse, lather, and repeat for a lifetime. And And so I laid down my roadmap for success, which is my goal setting strategy. And I sucked at it at first. Excuse me if I don't know if I'm allowed to use that on your radio, but
no, you're good. If it makes sense, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was terrible at it. I would set goals and do nothing. I would be like, I was just Mr. Lame. Like, that's where we all start. Nobody starts off like a accountability machine. I have a 4-month-old. I can tell you he is not an accountability machine. I can't even get him to sleep through the night. But today I'm a pretty accountability based guy. I mean, if I say I'm going to do something to you and it doesn't get done, that's the rarity, not the norm. But when I started on this process, I said all kinds of stuff I wouldn't do. I would say it and I wouldn't get it done. But I made my discipline being that person that does what they say they're going to do. That was my choice and my commitment. And over time, I got better and better at it. And today I can make pretty good things happen. I mean, I can raise a bunch of money for charity. I can make businesses start. I'm doing more deals in a year now than I did in my decade of my 30s. So that's kind of fun. But all of that is based on the choices I've made and then the accountability I hold myself to the choices I make versus just making choices to feel good. And I think some people, going back to your original question, they'd rather just feel good. And hey, if that's what you choose in life, that's fine. No power, no judgment here. But if you actually want to make something happen, you have to get into the gritty, grindy part and go, okay, I'm not getting what I chose. Why isn't it working? What do I need to do different? And that will always give you an answer. And then you have to take action on that answer and then apply yourself again. And if you keep doing that over and over again, it's impossible to fail. So that's what I chose to do.
Absolutely. What are some of those examples of looking good, feeling good, kind of going after those moments? What are examples so the audience can really draw a line to that?
Yeah, so here's an example. Okay, so I'm with a guy the other day and he's like, oh, I bought 2 rental properties. I'm like, okay, how's that going? He goes, oh, they're doing amazing. I've got the coolest tenant. I really like the guy. He's like an entrepreneur and I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. And then I talked to him, a little while later. I'm like, hey, how's the rentals going? Oh, you know what? I got a new tenant coming in. That other guy quit paying me. So I'm like, oh, okay. But the new guy's going to be amazing. So that's an example of I call it hopium. Like people really want to smoke the hopium. They want to live on hope, And hope is also like, hey, I just bought this course and it's going to go lead generate for me. I bought a software and a course and it's a $5,000 thing and I'm going to have masses of business in no time at all. And then you see them 2 months later, like, hey, how's that course going? And they're like, course. They can't really remember. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But hey, I just heard about this new television ad. I'm going to run this television ad. It's going to change my business. It's going to cost me $10,000. I can't wait to run this ad. Could you loan me $5,000 because I'm $5,000 short on the ad? So that's the hopium is people that live from, they can verbalize things so effectively that they live in that story. And they get so much fulfillment out of telling you that story that it doesn't really matter if it comes to pass or not. And it's usually people that are pretty good communicators and they're usually pretty emotional and empathetic. And sometimes they do pretty well, but it just, to me, the grinding part is, okay, I bought 2 rentals. I always start from a negative perspective because I want to fall into a positive perspective. Or if I hire somebody, my thoughts are, where is this person going to drive me crazy when I'm in the interview process? Where in 6 months are they going to annoy me? And then when I first hire them, I try to look for what is not going to work because the mind is, oh, I hired them. They're the best ever. I just hired a new assistant. So now I can go to the bar and tell my 5 buddies, I've got an amazing assistant, because you get immediately awe, you get a pat on the back. People look up to you, whether it's true or not. But the trouble with that hopium and that whether it's true or not piece is eventually it will show up. And the level you have authenticity to your word and to is that person really good? And if they really are good, you will look good and make more money. But if you're just saying it because you just met them and you got their life story through your interview and you think they're a great person, but they're not really that good, they're maybe mediocre or either side of that, then your results aren't going to show up, but you'll still get that joy of bragging about it. And I think a lot of people spend the time bragging instead of really digging down. So I bought a rental property and people say, well, is it good? I'm like, well, so far, it looks like on paper that I'm going to have plus $300 a month on a $10,000 investment. So that's $3,600 a year, which is a 36% return. But that's what it looks like right now. And I can tell you that if one water heater goes out or one AC goes out or one guy tears all the copper out of my property and leaves, it'll be a negative cash flow situation and I'll hate the fact that I bought it. So that's where I'm at right now. So that's where I encourage people to do is just be cold with it, be real with it, right? Like really look it in the eye. Okay, I just hired an assistant. Oh, wow. Are they going to be good? Well, I don't know yet. Honestly, I probably won't be able to tell you for 6 months whether they're really good. I did check their background and I did do the interview process and I used the disc and I used the process I was taught because I was hiring bad people. So I went and took a class to figure out why I'm hiring bad people. And I got taught how to do a good hire. And I followed that process. Not as good, by the way, as they taught me because I took the class 3 years ago. I probably ought to take it again because I already see myself shortcutting like half the steps in it because that's my nature to shortcut everything if I can. But I did follow most of it. Their profile lines up with what I'm looking for. Their background checked out. I called all their references they gave me. And so far, I think they might be good, but I can't really tell you yet. And that's really how you need to answer stuff. And that's how you need to be on with people. And even if you have a killer hire, like I have people that make me say $1 million a year that work for me. And people say, how's that guy doing? I'm like, he's doing great for now. I just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow he might have an affair on his wife and move to Mexico. Tomorrow he might get hit by a car. Like, so far that business has done good. Don't let people go, oh, you're such a great dude, man. You're doing amazing. That business is killing it. And you're like, yeah. And you blow on your nails and wipe them on your chest and puff yourself up. And as soon as you start doing that, man, there's just so many cracks that can start appearing in your foundation. So from my point of view, you just got to be real, real, real. And you need to have friends around you that are real, like not friends that just allow you to inflate, because that hopium is a dangerous thing, man.
Do you think that when you say, oh, I just got this new hire and they're starting, oh, he's amazing. Oh my gosh, he did this 10 years ago. He went over here. Do you think that person's really just selling himself?
Yeah, absolutely.
To really convince himself, like, yeah, this is a good hire. Yeah, this is good. And then also you're going to believe in that too.
Who wants to hire? Who wants to like convince themselves they made a bad hire? Like,
exactly.
Everybody wants to think. And I'm very disciplined about who I hire. In fact, I'd say one of the most successes I've had is when I did take a class, honestly, which I probably took 10 times, and I learned how to hire people. And I've had some great, great talent in my life. But the most discipline it requires is to leave open the possibility that you might have just made a bad hire, because who the heck wants to hear, oh, how's that new guy working out? Well, I'm not sure yet. They're doing okay so far. That's not a very inspiring conversation. But if you just say they're doing amazing, everybody's like, oh, awesome, dude. And then all of us are skipping across the surface of life. You're not getting really deep. And you're honestly setting yourself up for potential failure because you're believing your own lemonade. You're all bubbles and no lemonade is the risk of that.
Yeah, and this applies to, I think, every aspect of life, not just hiring, but you could say, oh, how's that gym going? Oh, yeah. It's going great. Then you feel like you have to live up to that. And if it doesn't work out, it feels bad. Or it could be dating. How's that new girl going? Or how's the wife or whatever? And it could be really, really challenging. So I think that applies to a lot of different aspects of life. So how do we go from smoking the hope, which I think is funny, to actually getting results on the table, getting things done, putting points on the board?
Yeah, so you've got to really track what your outcome goals are, and you've got to track your results. So the hopium is, it's everywhere. And by the way, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to have a certain amount of innate hopium inside of you, right? Because what we do is tough as an entrepreneur. You take a risk, you put yourself out there every day, you're going to get kicked around. It's inevitable. So it's really helpful to have like a positive shield that you wake up with every morning. Like it may get depleted by, like your Captain Kirk and the Klingons have shot almost all the way through your shield. But when you go to sleep at night, you wake up, boom, it's back up and you're very positive. You see the world through rosy tinted glasses. But if you don't develop the ability to choose an outcome. Okay, I've got a new salesperson on my team. I expect them to get me 100 sales a month, pick a number, 10 a month, whatever it is. And then you hold them accountable to that. Okay, this month Andrew, you got 2 sales. You said you're going to get me 10. What do we need to do to fill that gap? We're at 2. We got 8 more to get. What's it going to take? How can I support you? First off, what do you need? And secondly, how can I support you in getting there? And that's the kind of gritty conversation that if you'll apply that in all areas of your life, will start getting you the results. So it's, okay, we just had Christmas. How do you feel about your health? Oh, I feel great. The hopium guy goes, oh, it's great, man. I know I'm a little bit overweight, but everything's awesome. I'm going to be fine. Okay. No, I have no conversation with you. Okay. Adios. Talk to you another time. We'll have a beer together. We'll feel great and nothing ever happens. On the other hand, the honest, authentic person is like, I just killed a bunch of pies over the holidays and I'm like 10, I'm 5 pounds overweight, but I could see it slipping towards 10 pretty quick. Do you want to do something about that? Yeah. Well, what would you like to do? Well, I think I should join a gym. Okay. What else are you going to do? Okay. I think I should watch my diet. Okay. What else are you going to do? Okay. That's all I got for right now. Okay, great. So when are you going to get into that gym? Like that's the level of accountability you want. That's kind of the type of friend I've kind of turned myself into. So I'm not always like the funnest guy, but if you want authenticity and if you want outcome focus, realness, transparency, then I'm willing to be that for you. And I expect that from you, for me. So I don't want you to just come up to me and shine my shoes, be like, oh, you're such an amazing dude. Like, okay, I don't mind the compliments. Let's compliment each other. Yeah, you look great too. You got a beautiful wife. Now let's talk about how we can help each other. And how we can help each other is by discussing where we're falling short of our mark. And that's what I ask for. And so you choose your goals. Like I've got goals in every single area of my life: health, relationships, spiritual contribution, business goals, my environment, my tribe, my lifestyle. So I set these goals, and then I want accountability around those goals. So if it's health, like right now I'm in the middle of a 100-day challenge. I've got like 8 guys on board with me. I think about 4 of them are actually doing anything, and that's okay too. And in that 100-day challenge, we're going 50 days vegetarian, 75 days no sugar, 50 days no alcohol, 80 cardio workouts, 40 upper body workouts. We're doing plank for about 50 days, going from 2 minutes to 4 minutes by the end of it. Just a various number of competitions and a challenge. And what I need is for you to hold me accountable to that, and for me to hold you accountable to that. And that's how we'll get better. And the same is true in business. So I said, hey, you said you'd make 10 calls to get 10 deals. You've gotten 2. What can we do to get different? And you go like, well, I'm not getting enough shots on goal. Okay, so you're not prospecting enough. How many hours a week are you prospecting? 1 hour. Okay, so you're getting 2 with 1. We need 10, so we need to 5x that. So could you do 5 hours of prospecting? I mean, once you're willing to get into the nitty gritty, Andrew, the answers always are there. It's not like we're designing iPhones. We're not designing rocket ships. We're trying to get results. So to get results requires action. So if you always will look at the outcome you want, where you're falling short, and then figure out what action you have to take to fill that gap, then ultimately you will be able to fill that gap. And it may be, okay, I did 5 hours of prospecting. I'm only up to 6. Okay, you need to do 10 hours of prospecting. Maybe we need to figure out how you're prospecting and how you could get better at it, because you're obviously doing 10 hours now and you're still only at 8. So you must be terrible at prospecting. So how can we improve your prospecting skills? Why don't we go listen to a tape or listen to a Brian Tracy thing or listen to some podcast on how to prospect better. It's all out there. And then listen to it, boil it down to 3 actions. Okay, I need to smile when I prospect. Well, that might be good. Maybe you need to wear deodorant. Maybe you need to dress better. All of these things are solvable things if you'll just break it down to the nitty gritty. And by the way, to me, that's what's fun, Andrew, because I love just getting in there and figuring out how to win at a higher level. And I enjoy the fun stuff too. Don't get me wrong. I'll go to a bowling alley and I'll be with my, out at dinner, and I'm trying to put that accountability guy away for those conversations. But generally speaking, on my 9 to 5 at work, or my, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., depending on what stage of life you're at, you really, really need that accountability. Otherwise, well, it's the breakfast of champions. It'll make all the difference if you're willing to have as much accountability as you possibly can in every area of your life.
Well, how do you find balance, or do you believe in work-life balance? Some people just say that, it's just life. Work and life is blurred for me because I enjoy what I do. So what's your take on work-life balance and finding, really pushing yourself and then having times where you're hanging out, you're relaxing and kind of rejuvenating?
Well, I'm a huge fan of it, and I try to do it. I
think it's great, and it's like it's great on paper.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot of techniques around. I don't know how you get ahead of like the economic game without working, outworking people to some degree. Like I did my 10 years where I worked 20 years in 10 years. So I did my 80 hour work weeks for 10 years, right? And today I'm more effective and I work less by far than that guy, but I don't know if I could be the guy I am today if I hadn't put in those 10 years, right? And then another 5 after that of probably, 15 years and 10, time and a half. So I was a grinder, and I don't know how you get ahead without at least having some level of a grindy ability in you. And most guys I know that have succeeded very high in life, they have that grindy in them, but then at some point you learn out how to work smarter. Now, maybe it's possible that you could figure out how to work smart early, and maybe that's possible. So let's hold that out as hope. But my way of having balance is to book all the stuff in my goals, so I know what balance looks like. So I book a vacation every quarter. At the beginning of the year, I put in 4 killer vacations into my schedule. Usually one is epic. So last year I took the family and we went to Seychelles and then to South Africa. We pet cheetahs. So I have a picture of my 7-year-old tickling a cheetah, and we did the safari, and we went with good friends, and we, it was a great, but I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't in there, and like I know it's coming up.
If you didn't book it in the beginning of the year, do you think that it just wouldn't have happened because life?
Early on, I never did, and I just worked all the time, and I was probably very boring. I used to almost take pride on working. You'll meet guys like, I haven't taken a vacation in a year. And I'm like, yeah, you're an idiot, but I used to be just like you. I mean, I used to be you, and I used to do that. And now I've learned that, if you don't take care of, there's a saying in Texas, that dog won't hunt. And that's when a dog gets older. And one day you're trying to get up at 5 a.m. and go hunting with the dog, and the dog just lays there. And you're like, oh, that dog won't hunt. I think if you don't,
like a badge of honor, like, oh, I first one in, last one out. Like it's a badge.
Yeah,
of
they
honor.
do that, right? And one day that won't hunt. Like one day you'll be like burned out. So if you're first and last out every day for your entire life, I think eventually, a lot of guys like that will burn out one day. And if you haven't built anything worth having when that burnout occurs, then you will just be like, oh, that guy used to be great, but now he's just mediocre. From my point of view, sharpening the saw or getting that time to refresh has become much more important, especially as I've gotten older. So after working for 5 or 6 years, like nonstop, all in as hard as I could, I met a guy who was even more OCD than me and like even more driven. He's like, look, here's what you got to do. Every quarter, you need to put a vacation in for you and your family. And especially when you get family too. When I was single, it wasn't that big a deal. But now I have family, and I know I don't want to suddenly see my daughter and she's like 23 and married, right? So we book amazing vacations. I really try to make memories with my family. So I'm trying to do stuff like go to the Grand Canyon, or my 7-year-old can already ski black diamonds. And I love skiing with her. That's my favorite thing to do. But that's creating memories. Like if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, my daughter would be like, I remember my dad. He was a great guy, but mostly I remember I skied with him on a beautiful sunny day, and we caught the bluebird day, and we just went out there and had a blast and laughed and played the whole time. So I think you've got to create memories. And to do that, you put in the 4 vacations, the big ones, once a quarter. And then you put 1 huge one and then 3 pretty significant ones. And then I throw in a lot of getaway weekends, and I have a goal to always put my wife first, to make sure I'm talking with my wife on like a family and meeting 24 times a year. So we sit down and I took her to breakfast yesterday. Then we walked this neighborhood around the restaurant. And I'm like, hey, how are we doing? What can we do better? What can we do differently? How can I serve you more? So really for me, it all comes back to my goals, Andrew. I'm constantly looking at my goals. And if I feel like I have a gap in my life, I throw that in my goals.
Yeah. How do you relate with material items? And because it sounds like you're going after these experiences, but obviously you've accumulated some wealth in your life. Have you seen material items and like people who chase that, where that becomes just doing it too early and it preventing them from becoming wealthy?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question.
How do you manage that on the journey? Because you work so hard, you want to treat yourself. You want to kind of enjoy the hard work and the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put in. And how do you have discipline around leasing the penthouse or the condo, or buying the car, maybe that it's a little too early?
Here's the thing. And if you want to be wealthy, you have to have assets. It's funny. I was listening to Tony Robbins' new book, Money, and he was saying the same thing. I'm like, wow, he stole that from my book, but I don't think that's true. I'm just saying, we're all preaching from the same script, right?
Right.
The only way you're wealthy is if you have assets. And I'm not talking about a fast car or a penthouse suite that you've rented at the local hotel. What I'm talking about is everyone on the Forbes 400 billionaire list has assets. It might be a business, it might be real estate, it might be stocks and bonds, it might be oil and gas revenues, whatever it is, they have an asset. I mean, a oil and gas field. So you have to know that you've got to build those assets. So you should set in your goals every year. Okay, I'm going to take 10, 20% of my income, I'm going to set it aside, and I never get to spend that for the rest of eternity. Okay? If after you've saved that 10 or 20%, you've got enough left over to get the car and get the suite, by all means do it. I still think that every dollar you spend is a potential $1 a year in the future. So today I live pretty large, but I did my 10 years where I was pretty frugal. I kept my lifestyle way behind my means. I always was willing to splurge for travel, and I was willing to splurge for meals, like a good meal, but I was frugal in all other. I never bought a new car. To this day, I bought my wife 2 new cars. I drive a $110,000 car, but it was $140,000 new. I got it for $110,000. So I still to this day haven't bought myself a brand new car because they lose so much value as they walk off the lot. So you just want to be smart, and you want to make sure you're hitting that savings goal. If you're taking your 20% and you're saving it and you're investing it wisely, that's going to change your destiny in the future. If I have that Ferrari, great. It goes back to the hopium. It's like that guy I was telling you about who tells you how great the hire is and how great business is going, and then you meet him a year later. You're like, hey, how's your business going? Oh, I had to close it. Well, I thought it was going great. I'm on to something else. Let me tell you how great this new thing is. And that's, again, this is a similar thing. Like, I know guys now that buy Ferraris, and I'm beginning to get it a little more. But for me, like a Ferrari, it represents $400,000. To me, I could invest that and make $40,000 a year. So I better be content giving up $40,000 a year
And that's mostly passive, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the key word. I think active income is so much different than passive income. I think the passive income is just worth so much more because it's passive.
It is passive. And passive to me is worth $1 of passive is worth $10 of earned income.
Wow. I was discussing this with my friend because I was doing some things, and I was sharing like how much I was earning passively and then how much I was earning actively. And it's obviously the active income is so much higher, but I was just so happy about the passive because it's like my books, for instance, is mostly passive. I sell hundreds of books every month passively, and I don't have to do anything. They just sell, and the customers are happy, and Amazon takes care of it all.
Absolutely.
I didn't put it into a context though where you're saying passive income is worth 10 times as much as the active income.
Well, if I asked your listeners, who would you rather make $200,000 a year doing nothing or $2 million a year working 80 hours a week, what would you choose?
Yeah, I think obviously the smart question is the passive, but there would still be some who would go for the 200 or the 2 million, of course.
Of course they would. And we'll see where they are in 10 years. Because the reality is this is a long-term game, right? So
right.
Like I sit here like you, I've got just a bunch of different sources of income. And I'm in the book, we talk about being a 100%er. And a 100%er means that 100% of your monthly operating expenses is covered by your passive income. That should be goal number one.
What did you call that?
100%er.
100%er. So
yeah, and I admitted it when all that stuff. Remember when it was going on, like the 1% versus the 99%, and all those protests were going on? I'm like, who would want to be either 1 or 99? I'd rather be 100% all in for my life every single day. Like I don't want to be 99. I don't want to be 1. I don't want to hate the 99. I don't want to be hated by the 99. I just want to be 100% in, best father, best businessman, and best financially managed, a successful person. And so the concept is this, like 100% of your monthly operating expenses, your life, like your car, if you have that Ferrari, your house payment, your food bill, your kids' school bills, whatever it is, 100%, take that number. Say it's $10,000 a month. The day you have $10,000 passive coming in a month, you're 100%er. And what that means is at that moment, you could freeze your life like that for the rest of time and never have to work again. And so that's the goal, is to be 100%er. So it's a target too. So you can write down, okay, right now my overhead is $3,000 a month because you're just starting, or it's $20,000 a month because you're farther down the road. And my passive income is, what is it? If you're at $3,000 a month and you're making $300 a month, you're a 10%er. You're making 10% of your monthly nut. So you got to get 90% more passive income to be financially free. If you're at $20,000 a month in income and you're at $10,000 passive, you're a 50%er. And so I'm like a 600%er, right? So I've built, because of what I've done through all of these years of building these passive income opportunities, and just going through that exercise will shift your mind. It'll never be the same again.
Yeah. I'm thinking, my head's spinning right now. So my question now is, let's say you become a 100%er, and what do you do after that point when you become a 100%er? And so just for all listeners, the 100%er is your income, your lifestyle is basically paid for, all your expenses paid for passively, is what I'm understanding. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so what do you decide to do? Do you continue? Do you go back into the active income and start, creating a new business, and then, but you're already 100%. So
you do whatever you want. That's the beauty of it. You want to go to retire to Mexico and open a fish taco stand in, Cabo San Lucas? Go do it. if you want to work and build more, my choice, I have two of my good friends. We've been studying this for 15 years, being 100%. And we also call it horizontal income. Vertical income is the money you make by getting better in one specific area, but horizontal income is multiple income streams laid side by side. So you've got your book income. That's one source of horizontal income. Do you own any rental property?
No. I have online courses. Everything else
Online
is active.
courses.
I sell online
Okay.
courses, and we do coaching.
Okay. So that's all earned income. So it's based on your time. But if you had coaches that you hired and you got paid a little bit off of that, that could be
I have a
some
team.
that's
I have a team of coaches. I think I have some of the best coaches in the world.
awesome. That is incredible. So I've got like 42 different income streams now. So I've got my skills so I keep doing it. My choice. But the two guys I know that I started with, they're both kind of retired. They do whatever they want to do. They'll still look at deals occasionally. But I got one buddy making like $15,000 a month and another guy making $40,000 a month. And they do it all passively, and they just do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. And one of them's created a podcast. He's got a pretty good following. And then the other guy has created a charity called One Life Fully Lived. And he's just trying to bring the technology that you and I are talking about right here to every person on the planet, kids from the inner cities, anyone that has no money, just like, because what you and I might take for granted, some people have never even heard before.
Yeah,
and so that's what he does with his time. You do whatever you want. Me, I still choose to build wealth. I give away quite a bit. I support people. I'm paying for a scholarship for a kid to go to school in Mexico. I'm building wells in Africa with Charity Water, Scott Harris, and there's just so many things you can do, right? But what I do have is a lot more balance than I used to, which was one of your original questions.
Yeah.
Is now I have the money, so I don't actually have to work.
Yeah.
So I use the money to hire great kids. I get to mentor people. I got people around me that work for me that I just love, that I'm trying to hope they can grow to be the best men possible. And then I also get to find amazing people, because one thing about success is as you rise in areas of success, from my experience, I don't know if everyone has this, but I meet more and more fascinating and amazing people, like that are just up to incredible things. And usually they make money, but they also do incredible things on the side as well. And it's all just fun to be at that level. And I tend to keep rising until maybe one day I decide I don't want to rise anymore. But in life, you're either expanding or contracting, and I'm choosing to continue to expand.
Yeah. And one thing that I think is challenging for guys who are really just they're several years in, and they're really good at what they do. They're really starting to see their income go up in their business or even in their career, is letting go, because you're really good at doing what you do, and letting go, meaning you're letting someone else take control of something that is really important, such as maybe sales or such as your advertising, just different roles that as an entrepreneur, you are kind of wearing all of the hats, and letting go of these hats and trusting that other people are going to be able to do well and giving them so much power.
It's the ultimate journey of the entrepreneur, what you just described right there, right? So usually you become an entrepreneur like, wow, everybody is just doing this terrible. I could do it so much better. So you get to work, you work, 2 hours for every one on everybody else. You're grinding it out and you get really good at it. And then you start having some success and start making money. The next evolution is hiring people to work with you. And some people are terrible at that. Some people never make that evolution. And they'll say to you, yeah, I tried that once. It was a disaster. Everybody's an idiot. No one can work like I can.
Right.
But then ultimately the third evolution is to hire people that are better than you at it. And if you truly want to live the fulfilled, magnificent life, if you want to be Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, you got to learn how to hire people that are better than you at their niche. And if you do that, your life changes radically. So it goes, I do it, we do it, they do it. And each one of those evolutions requires new skill sets. So I do it, you can just outwork everybody. And I know a lot of guys like this, they make a ton of money, but they usually peak out around $1 million. Honestly, that's there are exceptions, but generally right around $1 million a year, there's no more I to be doing it, right? You run out of I, you run out of time.
Your time is limited, and your value can only reach so much.
Exactly. So then you move to we do it. And then they start driving people. And a lot of times everyone quits on them all the time because they push everyone as hard as they're pushing. They expect them all to be just like them. And then they're like, man, my entire team just quit. I have no idea why. And you're like, well, what are you paying them? Well, I pay them $70,000. And what do you expect? Well, I only expect them to work 100 hours a week, just like me. I'm like, dude, they're taking $70,000 because they don't want to be you. They want to come in, have a healthy job, be a part of something big, and then go home. And if you drive them, you can expect high expectations, but you shouldn't expect them to be you. There's a reason they're working for you. And then if you really
go ahead. So you said you're paying them $70,000, which is kind of like a moderate, it's a good salary. It's decent.
Yeah, it's good.
How do you go because to get these people who you just said you need to hire people who are better than you. So getting people who are just beyond you, and they're actually they're schooling you on the board. How do you make that leap to paying them? And because, you know, at that point where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna pay, and I think that's another leap, is when you switch from we do it to, you know what, I'm gonna get people who are better than me, who are gonna come in and show me how to do it.
The best thing about that part, and that it's hard, and what I'd encourage everyone to do is take some courses on hiring. I only do 3 things in my life, Andrew. I hire talent, I find and hire opportunities, and then I set a vision for my life. So those are my 3 things. But going back to the hiring talent, occasionally you get lucky and you'll hire somebody that they'll just be blowing up your world, and everyone will be like, "Oh, Andrew, you are doing amazing." And you'll say, "Yes, I am," and puff out your chest again. But the reality is you just got a really, really good hire, and you better figure out how to golden handcuff that person to you, because if you don't, they're going to blow away and go do something different, and your business will shrink again. And then the second thing is you make it a discipline and a science, how to find great guys. And I can tell you what great talent want. They want freedom and they want opportunity. In fact, when you hire great talent, they don't ask, "What's my salary?" They say, "What's my opportunity?" You're like, "I was going to pay you 75. I don't care what you pay me. What's my upside? What's my potential?" And so what you do with talent once you get them is you create a railroad track for them. So, you know, most of my best hires were paid $50,000 a year, but we're making $300 because everything they made was based on the upside. So you create a compensation model that rewards the outcome you want. And if you do this intelligently, like I've been lucky enough to have a guy, like I said, literally make $1 million a year working for me. By the way, while he's making $1 million, I'm making like $1.4 million off of him. And he's full-time in the job, and I'm only working on that business like an hour or 2 a week, you know, just checking what he's doing, making sure it's going well. And by the way, I also gave him the opportunity to earn in 20% of that business. So he becomes my equity partner. But guess what? So he's getting paid $1 million because he's getting like bonuses on sales, but he also gets 20% of the equity we make at the end of every year. So now all of a sudden my 1.4 just dropped by 280 grand. So I'm making 1.1 whatever, and he's making 280 in addition to his $1 million. But do I care? So your goal with super talent is to lay out tracks for them, give them incentives, keep their base low, make their pay high as long as it's based on profits, not just on gross revenue. So you want to be making at least, I try to make $2 for every dollar they're making, but as you can see from that example, it doesn't always work out. Yeah, and then you want to then hold them accountable to that.
Got it. So yeah, why did you do that? Where now you just went from 1.4 to 1.5, it sounded like.
Because that was because as he succeeds higher and higher, he starts looking around. He's like, well, okay, so where could I be building this somewhere else? Now, keep in mind, too, that example I gave you is more recent. I'm making a very good amount of money right now, like lots of millions from lots of different sources. So I'm really far more generous than I probably used to be. So let's go back to an earlier business. Okay. In an earlier business I hired a gal, and they're like, "You'll never get her. She won't come work for you. She's really happy where she's at." And I hired her, and she came to work for me for a pay cut. She went from 124 down to 90, but the way I paid her the 90 was I gave her a $60,000 base with the first year only a $30,000 guarantee. And she built a business for me where she got 17% of the gross profits of the business. Because we did a lot of profit sharing, that worked out to be about 25% of the total profits of the business. So she took that business from break even to making $250,000 a year. So at $250,000, she was making a $50,000 bonus on top of her $60,000 base. So she's making $110,000, even though I hired her at $90,000. She was loving life because she was really, really good at it. It was a very fulfilling position. And then as she kept getting bigger, that business today, I think we make $500 a year off of it. She's no longer with us. She's moved on, but she lasted a good 10 years. She took it up from nothing for break even. It wasn't nothing, but it was break even to a reputable franchise in this territory I'm thinking of, and gave her an earn-in of 10% of the business. So she walked away. When she left, we bought back 5 and left her with 5. We kept 5 for the new hire we made, and today she's still getting checks to that business. So she's getting $25,000 a year passive, 5% of 500. And she gave us 10 great years and built that business. So it's different phases. You start off with the bonus so they can kill it and build it. And then you give them equity to kind of keep them golden handcuffed in. And by the way, when I hired the next manager, guess who did all the training for the next manager? She did. She did 100% of it, like 90% of it. So I'm just overseeing it. And now I'm leveraging myself out. And now the new person is trained by the person that just built it, and then she takes it to the next level. And by the way, it's not always linear. Like I think we hired somebody who did okay. After 3 years, we replaced them. Then we hired another person, and that person took it to another level. It was like 350, and then that person burned out. We didn't give them equity because they did it in 3 years. And then the new person we just got blew it up, and we're having conversations about that 5%. So that extra 5% actually is in my and my partner's ownership, but this new operator has probably earned the right to have that. So anyway, I don't want to get lost in the details. My point is the way you hire talent is by creating a huge economic model inside of your world that helps them hit their economic goals. And then you lay down the railroad tracks for how they hit that, and you just try to keep them on those tracks.
So you're okay with giving equity, it sounds like. Because there's a book,
I am.
How to Get Rich by Felix Dennis.
Felix died, by the way. Did you know that? I love that book.
I did. Yeah, he did die, and he did have some challenges with alcohol.
He's a party animal. Yeah, he said in there, never give away equity. And I don't disagree with that.
He says, like, just fight for it, wrestle, all this. And what are your thoughts on that? And maybe maybe he had a different goal, but
he died at 60, man. I mean, he died at like 60 something. I don't know whether that level of intensity, I don't disagree with it, but everyone I know, like if you look at Richard Branson, if you look at Warren Buffett, every one of them is willing to share equity. Now, what I am quite obsessive about is creating my equity structure in a way that I have complete control, even to that original 5% owner, like having the right to buy that back at any time for any reason. And the reason I put that in my agreements now is because I didn't put it in early. So in a way, you're sharing equity, but you're keeping the rights to control it. So if you set it up correctly, and then they'll say to you, like, you're not really giving me equity. I'm like, no, I really am. But at some point, I may need that equity back for the next talent, but I'm not going to take it from you. I'm going to buy it back for you. So just be like as if a company went off the publicly traded markets and went private. You don't get the right to keep your shares. They just buy you out. But as long as you're contributing value and showing up like that girl, the lady I mentioned, she still shows up. She still teaches. I have no interest, never even really thought of taking her 5% back because she brings so much value to that business. But I have the right to do that. So in a way, that way, it's like more of an option than a permanent commitment. And when people resist you on it, because they'll say like, well, what am I really building? And like, you're building equity. It'll have a cash value. And if you ever aren't delivering value to the business, I have the right to buy you back. And if you think about it, I have 100% of it now. So why would I give up control over that business? Why would I give away that share permanently? I already have it. You have none. So if I share it with you, I'm going to keep the right to buy it back. And keep in mind, too, if you get divorced, I get the right to buy it back. There's a lot of things in here just because you can't disrupt the business because you're no longer engaged. This business requires a lot of effort and a lot of energy. And so because of that, I have to have the right to have those shares back if I need them at a fair price. Now, in real estate, I would probably keep them in permanently. I don't necessarily put that in my real estate deals unless it's an earn-in for a guy operating my real estate deal.
David, is this stuff in your book, Wealth Can't Wait?
Yeah, it's all in there.
Okay, so for the audience, trying to scramble notes, it's in the book, Wealth Can't Wait on Amazon. Just want to make sure that you guys are paying attention. You're like, oh my gosh, this is really good. For the right person who's really who's in a business, who's trying to get free, and he's trying to learn how to get the right people in place and grow that business too. And we're talking about hiring top talent and giving them opportunities to grow your business so that you can go on and build other businesses. Check out Wealth Can't Wait. What are some of these? In your book, you have these habits. Like, what are some of the habits of wealth that people should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, the first habit of wealth, I think, is to have a vision for your life. You've got to be very clear where you want to go, what you're trying to do. I call that living life by it.
Personally, professionally, right?
Yeah, living life by design, man. Look, you're given this incredible opportunity in the United States of America. I don't know where you get it elsewhere, but I know we get it in America. And that is that you get to choose your destiny.
Yeah.
And so one of the things you have to know is what you're going to choose to do with that destiny. You can't just float along on the river and be like, oh, my life's not fulfilling because, you're like, well, what do you want to do with your life? Well, I really haven't decided that. Well, maybe that's why it's not fulfilling. So you have to choose. Like, like some people love to live in the potentiality of undecided because then everything is possible to them. From my perspective, you've got to choose. Here's what I'm going to do now. Now, you don't have to think of it as a lifetime choice. You could say, okay, it's like enrolling in the Army. For the next 3 years, I'm going to become the best prospector that I can possibly be. I'm going to learn how to be not afraid of the phone, how to make cold calls, how to make the phone ring, how to make business, how to make things happen. Okay, that's my commitment. And then you do all the action steps required over 3 years to do that. And then after that, you go, okay, now I'm going to learn how to hire the 5 best prospectors in the next 3 years in this same space. I'm going to be able to teach them because I already figured out how to do it. So I'm going to learn how to hire and then manage the 5 best prospectors. And that's the next 3-year commitment. And then the next 3 years after that, now I'm going to learn how to hire a world-class leader that can lead prospectors that know how to prospect for this kind of business. And by the way, on the side, I'm going to learn contract law just effectively enough that I can build a business around this people and not just raise the next 9 competitors for my business. So I'm going to put in some non-competes, non-solicitations, and some golden handcuffs so that they can win more and more the longer they're with me. And that's kind of the vision thing that I think is so important for life. If you have a vision and you just apply yourself to it, you can't fail. The second one I've already told you about is make business decisions based on solid fundamentals. Like, don't get caught in the hopium. Like, I've seen so many people blow up. They're like, what happened? Well, I had one really good branch and then I decided to open 10. Or, like I bought this. I went out and I bought I took a 20,000 square foot lease, even though I only had one client, because I was certain it was going to go amazing. You got to go with the fundamentals. The fundamental is earn more than you spend. The fundamental is save some of that earnings and do something with it. The fundamental is don't drink the hopium. So prove your model, prove your model, prove your model. So there's a lot there. I mean, one of them is the habit of learning. You and I have talked about this. The reason you should be listening to this podcast. You have to learn continuously in life. And I was a fool in high school. I was a fool in college. But I'm telling you today, I don't know many people as committed to learning as me. I'm like constantly on the audiobooks, constantly looking for the new person to have a great conversation, listening to the podcast. So you just got to learn to earn. There's more in there, but that's some of them for you.
You mentioned earlier, those are great habits, but you mentioned earlier, hey, real quick, you're just like, there's just 3 things I do in life. And you said,
find talent.
Find talent. You said find and hire opportunities, or
find deals. I mean, it's the same thing. Deals. Like if I find a talented person, I hire him. If I find a talented deal, I hire that deal, right? So I look at about now probably 100 deals a month, so 1,200 a year. And I'm just constantly looking at them. I've got a team around me. I can send the deals off to have them analyze it. Just invested in Bulletproof Coffee. Have you ever had that Bulletproof stuff? It's amazing.
I've had Dave Asprey on the show. Yeah, great stuff.
Okay. Love Dave. Love that coffee. Very honored to be a part of that. So, I'm just constantly looking for opportunities that hit my target of earning money. And the way you get good at deals is by looking at a lot of them, just like anything else. The way you get good at hiring is by interviewing a ton of people. And then the last one is creating a vision for my life. And maybe that one comes first. It's that habit of I have a 5-year vision. I have 80 goals for this year. I have just constantly things I'm looking at that I'm doing for how I want my life to go. I have a dream board. I'm looking at it right now. I have a dream map. I just have so much stuff because I've learned this one thing.
I love it.
You can have anything you choose in life if you will just get after it. Choose it and then get after it.
Yeah. I love that you're into the personal development, because there's such a stigma around doing some of these, going to events, reading books, like it doesn't work, it doesn't do anything. But the people who really apply, the people who actually take it and apply, can see massive change in their life. And it's what I've been promoting here on this podcast is I interview guys like yourself. And I just love how successful you are and how you're so into personal development, personal growth, and learning. I just keep hearing over and over from you, I'm learning, I'm challenging myself. Accountability. You probably said it like 15 times already, like the word accountability on this show. And I think that is we all know it, but it's such a powerful tool. The 3 things you look for, the 3 things you're doing: hiring talent, finding deals, opportunities, setting a vision for your life. Sounds like I was just watching the Warren Buffett documentary. Did you see it on HBO?
Yeah. I thought it was really good. It was a bit fluffy, but I thought it was really good.
It was a bit fluffy. There's a couple things in there, which is he reads 8 hours a day. Yeah. That was one. Like, he's not like actively working on the phone, like doing all this crazy, managing all his teams. Like he's reading 8 hours a day, and he likes to just do it alone in his office. I don't know why he drinks so much Coke. I think that was like a plug, but
I'm sure it was.
I'm sure it was a plug. I'm like, he's in his 80s. He's drinking Coke, but also he just does like one move. He finds like one deal every 2 years. Like he's done about 25. He's made about 25 decisions that have made him one of the richest men in the world.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? He's a genius, of course. But he dances to his own drum.
You do have to throw that in there. Yeah, he is a genius, of course.
Well, he dances to his own drum, and that's the other thing I like is like if you have your life by design, you can wear your shirt inside out if you want. You can. A guy I know is worth a couple $100 million, more, does planks in the back of the room in meetings. So he's not only learning, he's in the back of the room doing planks. So when I saw him doing it, I just met him at a conference. I went and did it beside him. I'm like, well, I'm going to start doing plank in the back of the room. And Warren Buffett gets to read 8 hours a day. And that's what happens when you're living a life by design and you're getting it done. And all those people that say, like, I go and it doesn't make any difference, is because you're not really applying it. You're going and skipping across the surface. Yeah. Don't go to a conference and learn 100 things. Yeah. Go to a conference, learn hear 100 things, pick 3 of them, and then apply 1 of them. And what I love about your podcast, Knowledge for Men, is the best thing men can do for one another is hold each other accountable. Like, I want people around me, I want men around me that don't say, hey, you look great, man, when I'm like put on 30 pounds. I want them to come up to me and say, dude, is there anything going on that's stressing you out in your life? Because normally you are a lot better in shape and you don't look that good right now. Is there anything I can help you with? That's what I want. And that's what you should be for one another. So if you go to a seminar like Tony Robbins and you learn that your attitude determines your altitude, okay, great. What are you doing every day to make sure you have a killer attitude? What's your morning ritual that puts you in the best mind frame for each day? Like, I can tell you mine. I hug my kid. I read. I journal. I scribe. I like to do a short workout in the morning. If I have time, I love to take a hot bath and read in the bath if I have that time. And that's my morning routine. So when I do that and then my day begins, I'm already ahead. I've got a good attitude. I've locked it in. That's what I learned from Tony Robbins. Don't take 8,000 things and then come back and go, oh, I learned 8,000 things. None of them worked. And better yet, pick another man that's there and say, dude, let's hold each other accountable to this morning ritual thing. Let's just get after the morning ritual and see if we can apply that, say, 4 days a week for the next 100 days. That's whatever that works out to be. Are you guys on for that? And if they say yes, then hold each other accountable and build on that. That's what men should be doing for men. And when you go to these seminars, pick one thing and apply it. People just go and they get 100 things and they say nothing happened because they're not applying one thing.
Yeah, very, very true. Really, the application of knowledge is true power. I want to dive into the knowledge round. Just want to ask you a few last questions here.
Yes,
Have you ever wanted to become a highly paid online thought leader in your space? Have you ever wanted to be an author and get that book out? Have you ever wanted to speak on stage about something that you were passionate about and get paid for it? Have you ever wanted to sell courses online passively and wake up to seeing deposits made into your bank account while you were sleeping? So if you're interested in learning how to become a highly paid online thought leader and doing something similar to what I do, then you're going to love this free training I made for you where I share the exact steps I would take to build an online thought leader business if I was going to start all over. Go to kfminfluence.com to get access to this training. Again, that's kfminfluence.com. You see, people kept asking me how I built knowledge for men in a relatively short amount of time. So I created this training for you to save you time and money so that you can go out there and make a massive impact and income in the world doing what matters most to you. Go to kfminfluence.com to get this training now. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. So the first question I have for you is, what advice would you give to someone who's feeling really lost or kind of unsure of their purpose?
I would say go somewhere private and personal and, recharging, restorative, and just ask yourself, who am I and what do I want? I remember one time a buddy of mine was asking me, who are you? Who are you? How are you? And I was like, I don't know. I was like late at night, 3 a.m. I'm finally I'm love, I'm truth, I'm strength. He's like, oh, he got silent. He goes, oh, that's pretty good. But I don't know where that came from. I just had a buddy bugging me, love, truth, strength. So that became like a mantra of mine for a while. I am love, I am truth, I am strength. And so just go somewhere, be by yourself and ask yourself and find a foundational piece you can build on, and then take that foundational piece and build from there. If you don't, we all have doubts. I had far more doubts when I was starting than I did today, but I had tons of doubts. Like, I can't tell you how many years I wasted of my life, how many years I was kind of like a lost soul. And yet I still just come back to my fundamentals. Who am I? What do I want? Well, I have a vision. I want to live a big life. Okay, what is it going to take to get me to the next step? If you keep asking questions, you will get answers and they will serve you. If you get lost in the drama of doubt and wandering negative voices, they won't lead you anywhere but in circles. So just ask, what do I want? Who am I? And then make a choice and take action. So that's what I do. I still do it to this day. I still have moments where I'm racked with doubt.
Yeah, that's very powerful for I think all of us here. You're still challenged with doubt. You're not just running around doubt free, just making it happen, but you're still battling it.
Absolutely.
I think we need to hear that. What do you think is holding most men back from becoming stronger, grounded men today?
That's a great question. I would say a tribe of people that stand for their excellence. I think you have to have men around you that stand for you to be excellent. And I think too many people are around a bunch of mediocre people and people that have chosen mediocrity. And if you choose that, there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes I think us overachievers are freaking nuts. I'm not saying that's necessarily the best choice. But if you want greatness for your life, you can't be around a bunch of pigeons and expect to be an eagle.
Yeah.
So you want to choose it and then surround yourself by people that hold you, that stand for your greatness.
Yeah. And your book here, just for the audience, I've already pre-ordered it, is Wealth Can't Wait on Amazon. And you can type in Wealth Can't Wait in Amazon. It pops right up. It's available for pre-order. By the time this comes out, probably be very close to it being live on Amazon. But also you can type in David Osborn. It shows up too as number 1. But David, you read a ton. And the question that is most challenging to most guests is here. What do you think are 3 of your most influential books that have helped you on your journey?
Yeah, so my favorite is, because I like short books,
Okay.
As a Man Thinketh is an incredible book.
That's like
As a Man
Thinketh. That's a pamphlet.
Yeah, it's like a pamphlet. But he just talks about weeding your garden. It's a lot of what we talked about, and it is very sexist. So well, I guess it's knowledge for men, so we don't have to worry about that. But it's very, it's like the man does this, but it's all about weeding your mind. Like if you have a negative thought, pull that weed out. If you have weakness, pull it out. I love the concept of just as you think, so goes your life. Secondly, I'm a big fan of The Miracle Morning. Have you read that by Hal Elrod?
Yeah,
It's just
I'm friends with Hal. Yeah,
it's a simple book. It's a straightforward book, and it's like 6 things: the savers, silence, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, read, and scribe. I do that with my daughter. We miss some of them, but on the way to school, we'll do affirmations, visualizations.
That's amazing.
Silence.
With your daughter.
Yeah, she's 7.
So cool.
She loves it. I mean,
That
she
is
really
so
gets a
cool.
kick out of it. And then my third one would probably be, I love the book, The One Thing. We've talked a lot about this on the call, but
Yeah.
you gotta focus in on one thing. There's like 100 things you get from a seminar, but just choose one. If you will make one significant change to your life every quarter, in 5 years, you won't even recognize yourself.
Very powerful. I really do love that you do the savers with your daughter. That's incredible. I just could imagine I started doing that when I was in my mid-20s. If I was doing that when I was 7, I don't even know what my life would look like.
well, let's not rush our horses too far yet. She's a beautiful kid, and we'll see what happens. But I enjoy.
You're not into the hope. You don't want to smoke the hopium. I get it.
You got it. You remember, man. You got it. Like I'm going to let her be her. The last thing I want to do is impose me on my child. But she has a fun thing, visualizing how great her day is going to do, and we have fun with the affirmations. So that's. Like today's going to be great. We're going to have an awesome day. We're going to be friendly to people. We're going to make a difference in the world. Like she gets a kick out of that. So as long as she enjoys it, we're going to do it. And thanks.
Energy.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's definitely good energy. So I posed a question to you and you said about like, maybe I could have been smarter about doing things and I could have been working less. So maybe if I was working smarter. So now I want to ask you this question. Imagine if you had 60 seconds with 25-year-old David and knowing what you now know today, what would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
Well, I would say go to school, son. Everything you need to learn is out there, but don't just learn from everybody. Be selective in who you learn from. I would, learn from people that have actually done it. I would prefer to read business biographies than, from people that have done things than people that are just like talking about how to do them. I would tell him to own assets sooner. Like I could have bought a house at 25. I bought my first one at 27, but I could have bought one at 25. Own assets. Assets grow over time. Assets feed you, liabilities eat you. And then the third thing I would tell him to do was be clearer on your vision. I think back then I was very scattered with my vision. I'd say get to work on that. If Warren Buffett reads 8 hours a day, you should put at least 4 hours a month into your vision. Like an hour a week is all I'm asking, but just say, am I where I want to be? Am I headed in the direction I want to go? So those would be my 3 bits of advice.
Really good. And what would you say, even if you have to summarize some of your main points here, your philosophy on life and success?
So I believe that success is being able to do what you want with whom you want when you want. A component of that is that the whom you want has to be interesting people. In order to be around interesting people, you have to be an interesting person. Ultimately, I think about life's about generosity and contribution. So I think if you contribute enough continually, you will build wealth, because you can't build wealth without giving. You got to give and serve other people. And then obviously, I think the whole purpose of building all this wealth is ultimately to figure out the most effective way to give it back to other people. So I would say the meaning of life is purpose, personal growth, transformation, success, and contribution.
Yeah, just kind of letting that sink in. I think that's very powerful for all of us to hear. Earlier in this conversation, you said something about, you can't get ahead if you're not continuing to work, if you're not continuing to put in the time. What came to mind, I wrote it down, was for you, David, who are you trying to get ahead of?
So I'm only competing with me. What I love about golf, because that's one of my hobbies, and skiing, frankly, is they're both you in the mountain or you in the golf course. You can't complain. People complain about people talking in the wind and all the rest of it, but it doesn't really serve anything. There's going to be stuff going on. So for me, life's all about me being the best David Osborn I can be. And sometimes that means making a little less money and working a little less hard and being a better dad instead, or being a better husband instead. And those are all ongoing challenges, obviously, for me, especially being a partner is one of the hardest things I've ever done. Being a husband to my wife is something I'm continually reading books. How can I be better? How can I serve more? But ultimately, you just want to be the best man you possibly can be. You want to be on this earth and use up the time you were given as most effectively as you possibly can. And included in using it effectively is using it incredibly ineffectively. So just, don't seek perfection. Just seek to be the best you can be. And do I compete in some ways with a billionaire? Yeah, I'd like to do better there. I'd like to make more money, but I don't obsess about that. I'm not if I'm playing tennis, I'm trying to beat that guy that's in front of me. And then if there's a guy in the club that's ahead of me, I'm like, I want to be better than that guy. I don't choose the guy that was an ex-pro. I choose that guy. So in my golf game right now, I'm trying to be a B player, which is a 4 to 8 handicap, and I'm right at 8. I'm not trying to compete with the ones because they're so far better than me. So I'm putting targets for myself, but I'm not losing myself in the obsession on I don't view myself as a failure if I don't beat him, because the journey is the reward. So
yeah, that's the key. Yeah. That's very key right there. The journey is the reward. And David, that wraps up the knowledge round. Thank you so much. You dropped invaluable knowledge here for my community. What's now exciting you today? What are you looking forward to in the rest of the year here?
So I've been surrounding myself with more and more very successful people. And so I've, managed to, I'm with a group called the Nines, meaning they're about nine-figure net worths. And I'm just one of the things I'm excited about is how do I serve those people? Like, they're all worth over 100 million. They're very busy. They have almost everything they need. Like, how do I create a tribe with those people that delivers incredible value to them and to me? So that's one of the things I'm doing, which is a lot of fun. I have a 4-month-old baby boy, and that's probably the best thing. I probably should have started there, being a dad and trying to be the best father I can to my son. And I have 2 beautiful daughters, and one is older and in college already. And then I have a 7-year-old and then the 4 months old. So being the best dad I possibly can. Talked to my college kid for an hour right before this call. She told me to tell the listeners that she was the inspiration for everything that ever happened in my life, which has definitely a ring of truth to it in there. And so being a great dad is fun for me. And then just personal growth. I mean, it never ends. Like, it could just be learning to be a ping pong player. Right now, we're doing a ton of ping pong. We've hired a coach. We're trying to get really good at being a better ping pong player. The secret of life is not being the best at anything forever. It's choosing things to be the best at and then learning from them and growing. And that's definitely what I do continuously. And this year I have plenty I'm working on, and next year I'll probably have something totally new.
David, this has been a fantastic episode about increasing our wealth and our own personal development as men. And so for all the listeners, I can't wait to get this book. I hope you guys go check it out on Amazon. Wealth Can't Wait. That's it. Just put it in Amazon. It pops right up, and it should be available for pre-order when you check it. And also check out David's website, davidosborn.com. Let me spell that out. David, OSBORN.com. You could just Google it, David Osborn. I just put David Osborn Wealth, and it pops up, actually. David, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story and invaluable pieces of advice with my community.
It's a pleasure, Andrew. Thank you. And my only wish is that all of these guys on the call, that all their dreams come true.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and millions of downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we're just getting started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes, because it really helps the podcast grow so we can impact even more men in the world who need this. Guys, this is all about living with purpose, where every day you only do things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. And always remember, love the life you have while creating the life of your dreams. Go to kfmfree.com to get a surprise bonus I've made for my listeners. Again, that's kfmfree.com for something that's changed my life, and I'm offering it to you for free. Also, check out my Amazon best-selling books that I've written for you to help you crush life at kfmauthor.com. Again, that's kfmauthor.com to see all the books I've created to help you break through in life. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, founder of knowledgeformen.com, and I'll see you in